Welcome to Huff Goes to the Movies. My name is Eric Huffman II. Most people call me Huff. Some people know that I love going to the movies. And if you're watching this, that means that you have clicked on part two of my discussion with my friend Jahshua Smith, where we rank all the films in the Halloween franchise and then place each film into tiers. The first part of that video is just our ranking. The second part, what you're about to watch now, has us placing the films into tiers. When we originally did the discussion, I didn't realize how long that conversation would go for. So I didn't place any sort of markers in that conversation for me to greet the viewers of the video or to sort of sign them off at the end. So if you're watching this now, just know that you're catching up in the middle part of a discussion that we actually start in a previous video. I will link to that in the description, or it'll be floating somewhere above my head. Thank you for checking out the video. Hope you enjoy. And without further ado, part two of our Halloween discussion. Hey man, listen, you know what? I'm with you. I think Halloween so just to go back on Halloween 2 for a second. I was helping, you know him, you know Mike Gray. So
Sure.
friend of the channel, Michael Gray, did his student film project. I guess it was supposed to be his thesis for when he graduated.
hmm
He filmed part of it at a hospital in downtown Detroit where like many of the floors aren't in use anymore. Like the top floors are still being used, but a lot of the bottom floors, like at the
hmm
time, weren't being used. So it's this dark, dimly lit hospital at night when we were filming a lot of these scenes. And the only thing I could think of, other than how good the DP looked, because she was like, wow, Halloween too. Like this is the vibe that I'm getting. So
hmm
yeah, fun times.
Yeah, there's a few hospitals I can think in Detroit that would just make a good horror setting if they were literally doing what they do every day.
Shout out to
So
Sinai Grace.
I wasn't going to say it. I don't want to get you demonetized or demonized, but thank you. That was a good alley oop there because that's
I mean,
exactly
hey,
what I was. Hey,
you know,
those who know know.
correct. And now, so I have the tier thing set up. You won't be able to see it, but I can
Sure.
go ahead and start placing them. So let us move on to the tiers.
hmm
So, like I said, we have Saturn Award winner, we have Certified Fresh, Rotten, and Golden Raspberry Award or Razzie Award winner. So, um, you know, we can definitely add some stuff here and we can have some debates. I think it's pretty clear where some of these are going to go. They probably don't
hmm
require much discussion or deliberation. So I'm going to go ahead. We'll take care of this right now.
hmm
1978, John Carpenter's Halloween, Saturn Award winner.
Sure. Hands down.
Let's do that.
That, like I
Saturn.
said, that's the Illmatic of horror.
All right. So now that we have taken care of the first Halloween, where do you think Halloween 2 belongs in the ranking? Do you think it's certified fresh, as in like
Mm.
not so much not well, certified fresh would basically be you can't really slander this at all, or fresh where it's like, yeah, I understand why people have some beef with it, but it's still like we can still live with it.
Yeah, I think it's definitely better than fresh. The only problem I think about like not putting it in the Saturn tier is that like if not two, what else is up there with one? And I mean there's a debate to be had there. So I guess let's have it and put it in certified fresh.
We're going with Halloween 2 certified fresh.
But you know what's interesting? I think more of the movies try to emulate two than they try to emulate one, and that
Mhm.
has not been a great thing for the franchise. So there's your reasoning to put it certified fresh.
You know what? That's a great point. It does feel like 2 very much has set a baseline, not so much for what these movies should be, but well, the first Halloween is the standard bearer, right? Like it's the torchbearer. And Halloween 2 does feel like that standard of like when filmmakers go in to make a Halloween movie, they're probably thinking about a lot of the moments in Halloween 2 to try to recreate. I think we both would agree that Season of the Witch is fresh.
Yes, literally
Okay.
fresh. Like it was a change of pace. Um, I'm sorry for those who think it's the worst in the franchise, but it was a fun watch. I
Agreed.
also have to throw in here that I did um part of my rewatch before I went to an unnamed Ohio university, a Catholic college, put it like that. And man, watching 4 through 6, as bad as the latter two are, you just don't want to go anywhere secluded in the middle of fall in Ohio after a rewatch. I was just like, is he gonna
Yeah.
get me here? No, because I'm black and it's Ohio, not Indiana. So I'm set.
I think Haddonfield is supposed to be Illinois, but the
Is
point
it Illinois?
remains.
Well, I've
I,
been saying Indiana this whole time, and you're right. It is definitely Illinois.
well, I mean, it is. It's. I think it's a fair misjudgment of geography since white people do be in Indiana.
That
So,
you know, that's actually the point. I was like, this is a wild ass movie to be in
yeah.
Illinois, but
Uh,
white
I
folks
feel
do be in
like
Illinois too.
I feel like we would both agree that 4 is certified fresh.
If we wanted to throw some razzle dazzle in
Uh
there,
oh.
I give it a Saturn.
Oh wow.
I know none of this is consistent with rankings, sure, but also you have H2O as number 2 for you, and I also feel like the more that we talk about 4, it's probably certified, but I think that I'm talking myself up my rankings more. I like 4. 4 is good.
I mean, listen, I really like 4 as well. I would,
Four just suffers from setting the tone for a lot of foolishness. That's all.
and that's part of the reason why I feel like that ceiling I'm hitting with it is certified fresh. Like,
Yeah.
it's just damn. What, man, I don't know that I'll ever quite get over the shift from 4 to 5, but I guess I can live with the fact that 5 is not 6. So, where would we place Halloween 5
Okay. The last two are Rotten
and
and
Razzie?
Razzie. Man. Okay. I feel like I just want to put it in Razzie. It's ass.
Wow,
It's
okay.
really five is bad. Five is only not so bad because 6 came after it. And I think that, oh man, 5 is really not good. It's
Yeah.
not.
So we already know where you're gonna place 6. That
I
is
think
that
we need
is
to create a new tier for 6. Just explosive volcanic ass. Like that's 6. Six is one of the worst films, period. And there are some Uwe Boll films that I would gleefully watch before 6. Like 6 is the only one in the franchise that I really like. I felt myself being hot rewatching again. 5 killed off the character way
yeah,
too early.
I would watch Alone in the Dark and House of the Dead before Halloween 6.
Yeah, 6 was just like, you've got to be shitting me all over again. It was like, you know how Mystic River pisses you off because it's a really, really well-written film
Yeah,
that like
that ending
it just kill
absolutely gets me every time.
it just kills you because like, but that's like the good filmmaking equivalent of this, where it's just like, what happens when everybody matters and you don't get what you want, and this is what happens when literally nothing fucking matters and you don't get a thing.
Yeah.
Fuck that movie. Fuck it.
Yes.
Hate it.
So then that brings us to Halloween H2O.
It was like there's nothing else to say about 6.
Hey, listen, you know what? I for sure thought that watching the producer's cut would probably not make me like the movie, but I could at least be like, okay, cool. I see where you were going. 6 does not help at all.
It's worse.
I'm sorry. The producer's cut of 6 does not help at all.
I think it's worse.
You know what? It's
Like,
we.
fam, like when you watch Dune, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you watch like Lynch's cut, it's long as shit, but it makes sense.
Yeah.
It's great. It took a movie that I was like, I don't really, this is all vibes, and gave it purpose. And typically, when I watch a producer's cut or a director's cut of an extremely bad movie, it doesn't always redeem it, but it makes me be like, okay, I understand it. It makes six worse. Six
Yeah,
is
it
six.
does.
Oh,
Yeah, it only the only thing it adds are stylistic choices that I think make sense. But other than that, it really does not add much else.
it was just a nicer who the fuck cares for me.
It's a fair point. That is a fair point. Um, I would put H2O in certified fresh. I think I know that ending was retconned in the worst way possible,
Yeah.
but to me, this is. I mean, if the franchise had ended here, I think this would not erase the sins of Halloween 6, but I think it would make it so that, you know what? This franchise started strong, ended strong.
Hmm.
I can live with where it's messed up.
Yeah. Like I say, you can't really penalize the first attempts at reboots because the other movies just didn't know what to do with it. I don't think that's fair. It really hurts some of these movies on the rewatch knowing nothing fucking matters in this franchise. It's really infuriating, but yeah, I would agree. I could put that certified fresh. Like that was a fun rewatch because honestly, I think out of them all, H2O was the one. Honestly, you said a rewatch. H2O was one I was kind of watching for the first time. I like realized how much I didn't pay attention to that movie the first time I actually watched it. So
Yeah.
certified fresh.
And that, of course, leaves Resurrection in Razzie
Booty.
territory.
But
Um,
Busta Rhymes kicking Michael Myers' ass almost gets it to rotten. I'm sorry. It's a great time.
if do you remember, I don't think they did it this year, but do you remember last year when the Oscars did like the fan vote of like audience cheer moment for movies?
Yeah.
And you had all these moments from movies that actually played in theaters that the studios actually licensed. And the one that won was the Snyder cut of Justice League. Like what are we talking about? And just so we're clear, as much as I like the Snyder cut, that's not even the moment in the movie that would have made me like cheer in a theater. Just so we're clear for those
Hmm.
watching.
Yeah.
I'm
This is what
happy.
I
Yeah.
want. This is what I want. So, you know, one of the few cool things about Saw 3D is the continuity of having the survivors group.
Hmm.
I want a buddy flick with LL Cool J's character and Busta Rhymes' character where they just randomly meet up as two black men who are like, you have nightmares about Michael Myers, and we just follow whatever they do in life. Because they're like, no, I beat that motherfucker's ass. So why would I still be scared? Like, okay, you got to think about that in that universe. Like, no one gets to come out and say, yeah, I whooped Jeffrey Dahmer's ass like bad before he sure when he got to jail, like people were beating his ass daily, but like
Yeah.
to be someone to say, yeah, I went toe to toe with Michael Myers and I beat the shit. I electrocuted his balls. What have you done with your life? And to see that person, I feel like that should have been Michael's first kill in one of the later. That's embarrassing.
Yeah. That leaves us with the Rob Zombie era. I feel like we can confidently say both of these are, well, rotten. I mean, we know the second Halloween is rotten, and I feel like despite his best efforts, Rob Zombie did not really make a case for why iconic horror films should be remade in that decade.
Yeah,
So
but
I'm comfortable putting both of them as rotten.
here's my thought. I think you either fresh one, rotten the other, or rotten one and Razzie the other because watching them back to back, like one is much worse than the other.
Yeah,
Two,
I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna put one as rotten and Razzie the other because
yeah, because
whew,
here's the thing about one, especially if you're right, if you think historically, like the Nightmare on Elm Street remake was only really tolerable because my dog from Watchmen played such a good Freddy.
Oh,
Everything
Jackie
else was
Earl Haley.
Jackie Earl Haley. I didn't want to say his name wrong, but yeah, like he's great, but the rest of the movie sucks. And Friday the 13th was just like didn't never need to be done. I think the
Yeah.
fact that he got a second Halloween speaks to how one was like close enough. I almost want to put it fresh for that reason, but like, yeah, it was like, ooh, you could get there if you do the second one. And then it was worse, much, much worse.
Yeah. And speaking of the horror remakes of that decade, I think so one, I found out that I know someone who was in the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Like he's like an extra in the background or something like that.
Hmm.
Because they used his high school to film for the remake.
Okay.
Um, but as far as the remakes of that era, one that I feel like went through the ringer because it was, a remake and it was produced by Michael Bay, but one that I think actually worked out really well, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
They did that.
I
You're
think
right.
I just found out, I did not know this before. The DP who shot the original Chainsaw Massacre back in the 70s shot the remake in 2003.
Yeah, that's a good remake, which makes the one that came out a couple years ago like so terrible,
Oh, that Netflix one was, yeah.
except for one scene, and we can talk about that some other time.
I think I know which one you're referring to.
Yep.
Um, so that now takes us to the Blumhouse era. I think 2018 is. I mean, is that fresh or certified fresh? Because I'm good with.
Give it a Saturn. Why not?
Oh shit. Okay, well, you know what? Here we go. Halloween 2018 is the second entry here that gets tiered with a Saturn Award.
And I'll tell you why. Because like every Halloween reboot has been dead in the water because it just wasn't captivating to fans like that on a commercial level. This one re-energized the
Yeah.
franchise. I was can I did not I was actively telling you and other people how excited I was for Halloween Kills because of how good 2018 was. I was like, I need this movie in six months. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like I was like, cannot wait. There's only one movie similar, and we're talking about reboots. And that was when Scream 5 came out. I was like, yep, I need six tomorrow.
Yeah.
I was
And
excited for Halloween Kills.
yeah, and I mean, I think Halloween 2018, interesting to note, came out 1 year after It Chapter 1, which opened with $123 million. It's the biggest opening ever for a horror film. Halloween 2018 opens at like 77 million. And so you've got to figure, if you're a producer in Hollywood at the time who's got their hands on like a legacy horror property, like something that people already know about, I mean, you had to have been like foaming at the mouth trying to get your movie made because it's like, yo, we can make all the bank right now.
Yes.
Yeah, so
Yeah. That was impressive.
yeah,
Um,
that was a huge. I remember when it opened the year before, it beat out the opening weekends of Wonder Woman and Spider-Man: Homecoming.
mhm,
So for this horror movie to come out and outdo both of those was like massive. So when Halloween came out and opened it north of 70, like
mhm.
for those watching at home, $70 million openings do not really happen like that. I mean, the Marvel movies have kind of spoiled us on that, but like we don't get huge openings like that for horror films. So
Yeah.
that was a big deal. That was a really good time.
And I'll also say this too, as far as like hardcore folks when it comes to IP, right? Like,
Mhm.
we talk a lot about like no idea is original and Hollywood's fascination with wanting to pull things back, like everything, like even Barbie, which was great. I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
Yes, I am a man, a black man who thinks that the Barbie movie was fantastic. It was very well done.
Yeah.
Um, versus like Oppenheimer or something. But like Halloween A is like the one IP that like I said, it's like Mortal Kombat. So when you hear it's being reboot, you're like, cool, whatever. Because it's been bungled so many times, but also too, like you said, to re-energize it, it really was like, okay. you know, like Halloween. We back.
Yeah.
I want you to put the word that we back up. You know what I'm saying?
Hell yeah.
So I think that it was just like it was a combo breaker for what was going on at the time in Hollywood too. It's very anomalous in that sense. So like kudos for them for getting it back on track, and not kudos for them for the two movies we're going to discuss last.
Yeah, and I will say, I remember as soon as that weekend was over, like by that Sunday afternoon when we knew that Halloween was north of 70, I
Mhm.
remember a lot of people were like, okay, so Jason Blum, you need to take all these profits you just made and you need to go get Friday the 13th. Like, you need to go get it right now.
Mhm.
And I think there's something, Exorcist believer notwithstanding, because I did see that. It is not good. I do think there's something to a big name producer who knows this genre
Yeah.
getting their hands on another legacy title.
Mhm.
I hope that can be Friday the 13th. I don't see a scenario where Freddy Krueger ends up not at New Line. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, and then Robert Englund doesn't want to do that again either, right?
no, I think he's done.
Yeah, as he should be. He's actually a really good actor outside of that. So,
So Halloween Kills.
I want to say fresh.
I can give it fresh. I
I
think
think,
that I think on the curve of this franchise, especially, I think fresh is fair.
yeah, I want to use the same logic where it's just like when you see the next one, like doesn't do any of the things as well, but it's still like it's not the worst. Fresh is
No.
like a good place to put Halloween Kills. I don't think it's rotten. I think even the bad parts are like they're not just tolerable, they're either funny. The
Hmm.
subplot with Homeboy was like, you could have done without it. But I didn't walk away feeling insulted. I did
Yeah.
not like a certain character. You know, I didn't like Karen biting it in the end. That made me feel unsatisfied. But the only reason I think it was unsatisfying, and I can't take it away from the movie, is just I was like, y'all aren't going to stick the landing with this. And I was right.
And that, of course, leaves us at the final film, Halloween Ends. Honestly, rotten feels appropriate
Yeah.
because if we don't give it rotten, we would be left giving it Razzie. And just so we're clear, there are 13 films in the Halloween franchise. We have given Razzies to 4 of them, which says a lot. I mean,
Yeah.
I think some people are going to look at this and go that we were a little too kind with Certified Fresh until they realize how many films we gave Razzies to.
And that's the thing. It's like if uh, it's about like a grading a class on the curve, right? So the valedictorian, salutatorian of the franchise looks so much better than all the class clowns because the class clowns aren't just like disruptive. The worst movies in this franchise are fucking stupid and a waste of time. And you can be one, but you can't be both.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I feel like Halloween Ends is not stupid. It is a waste of time in the sense of like, man, that's really how he's gonna go out. Michael has survived and endured much worse. I like the idea of like Michael is actually there with the audience where he's just like, shit, I'm tired. I don't want to do this no more. Like, because I feel like what happens when he actually kills the people he's looking for? Like, what does he do with the rest of his life?
Right.
And I feel like that ends is kind of the end to that. So it'll inevitably get reboot. I think now that we've gone through this again, I actually am very excited at the idea of a multiverse because there's a lot that you could do to correct path. Like I keep saying this is like Mortal Kombat. One of my favorite things about Mortal Kombat, and especially the last video game, is everything is canon. Like you either do that and you say everything matters, so that the things that don't matter, you're just like, well, I guess those were dead ends in a world that I don't live in. So you
Hmm.
can kind of live with that. They were just like, yep, it's all canon. Every single ending of every single game, it all matters. It just happened in a different universe. I was like,
Yeah.
all right.
I would actually honestly I kind of love whatever this looks like when we get the remake, reboot. I'd kind of love for them to pick back up on Jamie Lloyd. I think
That's what I'm saying.
if you're gonna continue this, you have to retire Laurie Strode. Like,
Yeah.
the audience has certainly gotten their fill.
Hmm.
But maybe I mean, he's probably too much money now, but you could bring Josh Hartnett back.
Sure could. There's just so much you can do there. You can do like there are so many characters that it makes sense for them to pick up the mask and become the person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think about Man in Black. That could have been so many different people than, oh, what about this doctor that was just randomly working at the sanitarium? I'm like, that's so fucking stupid. You mean
Yeah.
you could have even, if you were gonna go that route, had a like, like you could have just made a dad. You know what I'm saying?
And,
Um,
I mean, hey, you know what? And I'm glad you said that, because the other thing that they would hopefully do with new Halloween material. What about the Myers parents? I mean, like, in the same way that I think Scream fans now are desperately hoping we get a payoff for um the Carpenter's mom, the
yeah.
mom of the two sisters who have become the focal point of these movies.
Mhm.
Man, I mean, listen, I have fan casting for days on who I want them to cast for their mom.
Fam, that is the most compelling horror storyline in a minute. And it's really cool because it's, once again, everything's canon in Scream. Like they didn't go
Yes.
back and say three wasn't valid or four wasn't valid. They were like, it's all connected. And it gives it a sense of urgency.
Yeah.
I'd say the one thing that six does well is that, like, the Strode family as kind of like an uncharted territory. And it was like, okay, you got this other part of this family that's been like, there's no way they can be whole right now with everything. Some of the
Mhm.
characters are jerks, some of them are just literally like loose ends. I mean, they stay loose because that movie solves nothing and makes you question everything. But I thought
Mhm.
that was infinitely more interesting than any cult or Michael himself,
Yeah.
or even at that point, Loomis. I thought that was interesting. And the thing about multiverses, and also one thing that Saw 10 does incredibly well,
Oh wait, don't
prequel,
hold up. I haven't
hold
seen
on.
Saw. I haven't seen Saw 10 yet.
Oh, but the general premise is that it's in between one and two. So I'm not
Yeah,
spoiling
yeah, yeah,
anything.
yeah.
I'm not going to
Mhm.
talk about the plot, but just the idea that like there are stories in between the stories. Sometimes a prequel doesn't do a good job because you have to build a story, and sequels definitely work less more that you do them. But there's some really cool things that if you're going to establish that these are different continuities, like I need pick up where four ended and do something there. You could make that a whole season of something, and I will watch it
Yeah.
if you can end it. If you could end it that like on Earth 3859, like Rachel is the new Laurie Strode, and this is
Yeah.
how that ends. Like I think that would actually be cool in uncharted territories that, honestly, bro, I mean, we're putting some ideas out there that somebody's gonna steal, but like I would much rather see an anthology of picking up a bunch of loot. Those are the kind of what ifs that actually are like interesting to
Yeah.
me. Not comic what ifs of like, how do we kill off this popular character just to do it? It's like, what if what if there was a definitive end to Halloween for this character that got wronged? I would
Yeah.
watch that for a lot of horror.
Oh yeah. And as a television series, that could be I mean, Miramax has it, so I guess it's going to end up, I don't know, through Universal, through Peacock or something, but like, Blumhouse has a thing where they feed a lot of up and coming filmmakers their movies. Like, hey, here's a small budget. We're going to put your film either on Hulu or on Prime. And I think that for a series that's largely rooted in an anthology setup, that could be a wonderful playground for a major studio to start, like a farm system for filmmakers.
Yeah. Do the freaking Infinity War series of like horror. Like somebody is just like, I'm gonna go back in time and do this differently. Possibilities are endless. I mean, if you're gonna be stupid, be intentionally stupid. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like just
Hmm.
make something unbelievable.
Yeah.
Do a crossover with Back to the Future. Um, is that Miramax or am I just making up stuff? But
I think Back to the
it's
Future. Ooh, I
it can't
actually
be
I think it's
Miramax.
I can't remember who did Back to the Future actually.
Who
Now that I
cares?
think
Just
about
go
it.
back into the DeLorean and say like, "Oh, go back to Haddonfield and make sure expert." I don't care, but it would be
Yeah.
fresh if you can write it well. If you can give characters purpose. You're right. It's a literal sandbox. Do what you want with it. Just get
Mhm.
Huff to direct it. That's all I ask. That's my slogan in 2024. Get Huff to direct it.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I'm down for it. Because I think I mean, I would love for Halloween to end, but I also think that if you want this franchise to continue, there's basically endless possibilities for how to keep a good horror franchise going. So
Hmm.
we have ranked, we have tiered, we have ranted, we have given hot takes via ourselves and our friends. Um, that, of course, brings the conclusion of our Halloween ranking and our tiered ranking, of course. New Halloween stuff is on the way. We have no idea when. The actors are on strike, so it's not like they can really start shooting anything. Um, all the films are somewhere on streaming via Shutter or Prime or Max or Peacock. That's where I saw most of them, I think. Um, but Josh, thank you for this. I mean, it was a wonderful idea. It's a timely idea, and yeah, I mean, this was great. And it's always good to not just go to horror movies, but to talk horror movies with people who are also fans. Because my wife is not a fan, so I'm usually just
Neither is
talking to
mine.
myself.
Maybe next time they should do a complimentary podcast where those two talk about all the ways that they just don't do horror films.
Oh, that would be something. And I'm sure Naomi could go for days about why she doesn't like it. But yes, that is all for me. Guys, if you want to find Josh online, you can hit him on Instagram at Joshua Smith. I believe also on X, formerly Twitter, also at Joshua Smith.
Yes. No. Well. Yeah. Still Joshua Smith.
Got it, got
Yeah.
it. And of course, if you want to find me on social media, you can find me at Huff Goes to the Movies. Of course, if you love horror, if you love the Halloween franchise, be sure to like this video, leave a comment with your ranking, and of course, yell at us about how we tiered all these movies. It's Halloween, so I'm sure people have lots of thoughts about this. I want to send a special thanks to Christopher, Chris Thomas, Anna, and Patrick for providing their hot takes on Halloween. And yeah, this has been fun. Stay sweaty, my friends. Once again, my name is Eric Huffman II. Most people call me Huff. I will see you at the movies. Peace.
Black.